presentation of ASUU. I think they have made their position quite clear. Their explanation for me is very enlightening, and the issues are not beyond issues that can be resolved. And it's about having an open mind and constructively interrogating each of the elements. For example, ASUU believes that if you give me allowance to buy a book, you don't collect tax from that book. If you collect the tax, then what is left will not be enough for me to buy the book. If the book is 100 naira and you collect tax of 50% from the 100 naira, I now have 75 naira. So how do I buy a book that was estimated to be 100 naira? Again, I believe with good faith, this can be resolved. And the same logic applies to every other specific allowances that is tied to the nature of academic work. And we also recognize at this level, and will report to our leadership in the National Assembly, that in the end, the ultimate objective of Nigeria must be to revise not external brain drain, but to retain the best brains in our academic institutions. So that it should not be said that if you make the first class, you are a tough flyer rather than going to academic as it used to be when I was growing up. Now you want to go to oil industry, you want to go to banking, you want to go to customs, you want to go to wherever you think the easy money is. And if the best brains are not in the university, then there is no hope in a world that is increasingly knowledge-driven, knowledge-based, and increasingly digitalized. And we in the Senate keep talking about technology. It will not come from heaven. It has to come from men and women who are in our universities and other tertiary institutions. So I think for me, it's a matter for Nigeria to decide how it wants to go. And we in the Senate, as ably captured by Karimi, we are clear that these issues can be resolved. Now, the issue of allowances, increase in salary. I'm also encouraged that from the presentation of the spokesperson of our comrade in ASUU, they've got it at the 5% offer, which they believe that it's not enough. Nothing can be enough, but they believe that a top-up can make a difference. And I know that in this business, rigidity doesn't help. So if ASUU is willing, as they have indicated to us, that some top-up might just do the trick, we are hopeful that talking to the executive to also moderate that give and take, will find an acceptable middle course. But there is no permanent agreement in these matters because the environment is dynamic, prices are changing, no one element can be static. If prices are rising and wages are stagnant, people will become poorer and they will not remain in academics. So I think it's a matter of Nigerian national interest that these issues are discussed, not in terms of they and us, in terms of us as a people. What do we want in our academics? I believe that under the leadership of our chairman, co-chair, chairman of Labour, chairman of TED Fund, we've had what I believe is a very fruitful and robust conversation, and I'm very hopeful that we can get ultimately to what ASUU desire, which is not in conflict with Nigerian national interest. But like they said, having made your point as ASUU, we also believe, because after all, they call it a warning strike. For me, one-day warning is enough. Once the warning has sunk down, you know we have the capacity to withdraw. You have made your point. And therefore, returning back to school, returning back to classes, while these negotiations are going on, I think for me it would be nice because parents are worried. And the irony, however, is that, let's face it, many of us are able to send our children outside. Also our comrades, and the children who are trapped are children of the poor, the children of lower comrades. And so I think with all of this in mind, they will do some reflection. But the important thing is that to go back to work is not to say that the issue is closed. It is just to give a more conducive environment for further conversation to take place. But these issues are not beyond solution. And we will report to our principals in the Senate. We are a subcommittee. We have Ogadem. We will explain to them our feeling, our take from this meeting, and we are convinced that together with the executive, ASUU and government will find a middle course to deal with the crisis of compensation. this is my take from this meeting, and I'm very grateful that even ASUU's approach, I was thinking they are going to be very, but I found them quite, one point by point and explaining in a manner that anybody can understand. So we made some progress, and we are all unanimous that we want to appeal to ASUU why this conversation is on, and that is not to say they should be on endlessly. We can give ourselves limited time frame within which these other issues can be resolved satisfactorily. But before then, it would be nice if our children of the poor, I emphasize children of the poor, because the not so poor, their children are not here, so that they can be back to school and we have an environment to continue with the conversation. But I'm grateful to ASUU for their general disposition and to our senior leadership for the concern that they have shown.
Thank you very much. BUK or Sokoto to earn 500,000 naira when he's earning 6 million naira in Uganda. Why should I leave Ghana, just across the road here, and come to earn what I'm earning in Nigeria when I am receiving 3 times or more in Ghana? Even Nigerians that are in those countries, their patriotic spirit will be tested to leave that when they have bills to pay, they have families to cater for, to come back home to contribute in the system. And so our salary is the least and the worst in Africa, and it is incapable of attracting any scholar anywhere around the world. Like I said, we have cycled and narrowed down on Africa, West Africa, and Africa. We're not talking about what our colleagues earn in the UK or US or Germany or Dubai or anywhere else. It is just Africa. Is it too much to pay Nigerian academics or Nigerian staff in Nigerian universities? Is it too much to pay us something of even the West African average to produce the best in Nigeria and the world? Is it too much to pay us living wages of even the West Africans' average to improve our universities? They say our students do very well when they go outside the country. Imagine we are even more motivated than we are today. Imagine what our students will do when they leave this country, or even what we will do in this country. Sir, if you help us as Senate to improve funding to universities, you will see what our researchers will produce. We challenge the Committee on Tertiary Education, and indeed the entire Senate, to try us and see. Just try us and see. Push government to increase funding to universities and see whether there will be strikes in this country. Push government to improve funding in Nigerian universities and see whether our students and our universities, our ranking will not, surpass all these African countries, despite our interest to remain in this country. And here on this table, not that we're trying to make any comparison or anything, we have a professor of nuclear physics. Here, we have a professor of nuclear physics. Sirs, distinguished senators, do we know how much it will cost to produce a research that will be published internationally in a nuclear physics journal? How much? Because he cannot write papers about prevalence and incidence when his colleagues are writing about very deep research. And all this require money. Any research that will move this country forward, I tell you, will surpass your regime, will surpass your time in the Senate. Prof, you know what I'm talking about very well. Because research that is meaningful, that is innovative, that is creative, will surpass the lifetime of 2 administrations. But funding is required for that to happen. So on the issue of funding, that is where we are. I've already commended government for what they have done, and we truly do appreciate it. Revitalization of Nigerian public universities. Government has released so far 50 billion naira. That 50 billion naira is still lying with the Ministry of Education after teams have gone out. The reason why the money is there is because the Ministry of Education wants to tweak how the money will be disbursed to include polytechnics and colleges of education. With all due respect to our colleagues in colleges of education and polytechnics, you, the legislator, you have already decided by your appropriation what that money is meant for. We are insisting as ASUU that what you approve that money for is what it should be used for. You have also approved money for polytechnics and colleges of education. There is no basis to bring them in now when they have their own appropriation. And so because we have insisted that that be done, that is probably why they have not disbursed the money. But we think that they should go ahead and disburse the money and let our colleagues also wait for their own. When it comes, if government releases, they should benefit from it. Lastly, thank you, sir. Distinguished Senator, the National Assembly has passed a 150 billion naira appropriation for universities. In our discussions with the federal government through the Ministry of Education, the government has told us that they cannot release the 150 billion at a go, and we understand. So they have agreed to release 50 billion naira in 3 installments. That will make the 150 billion. The first tranche of 50 billion has been released, and it is currently with the Ministry of Education. I was just explaining why the money has not reached universities yet. And we're saying one of the reasons is because the Ministry of Education, in their own wisdom, want to spread the money to universities, polytechnics, and colleges of education. And ASUU is saying this committee, this Senate has approved an appropriation, and that money is for universities. There would be a separate money we believe that has been approved for colleges of education and polytechnics. So why don't you just follow what the appropriation is and release the money? That is why that money has not been released. And we hope that after this meeting, you will urge the Ministry of Education to go ahead and act on what you have approved as appropriation from this House. Lastly, distinguished senators, we are worried about the efforts by the Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, by Oshiomhole, to take the land part of the land of the University of Abuja. This call has become necessary because despite several calls and releases by our union, our branch in Uni Abuja, for him to hold that process, it is clear that the Honorable Minister of the Federal Capital Territory is determined to go ahead to take the land of University of Abuja. The University of Abuja land, as we know, is about 10,000 hectares or so. University of Ibadan has 13,000. University of Ilorin has about 11,000. ABU is like a whole country on itself. Even the Port Harcourt Uniport, where he was governor, how much land do they have? Why the interest in the land of University of Abuja? It is because of this funding that we are talking about. If government was funding universities adequately, there will be no land in University of Abuja. Take a drive into the University of Abuja staff quarters. Anytime you are passing that way, distinguished senators, just drive into the staff quarters and see when any of you would want to live in that quarters. Nobody would want to. There is need for that land, whether it is for agricultural purposes, research purposes, accommodation. The university would use that land and request for more from the Honorable Minister of the FCT. Why would he want to take that land away from them now? So we want to appeal through you, through this Senate, to appeal to the minister to let the University of Abuja be. Let him rest that case. We need that land. We're going to use it once funds are available for the university. And we know that the Senate has the capacity to look at this funding issue, and once funding improves, University of Abuja would have no area left for anybody to use. In fact, what they have will not be adequate for them to use. Having said that, we want to thank you very much for listening to us. We want to put it on record that progress is currently being made with the Yahya Ali Ahmed Committee. We are not satisfied with the terms that they have offered to us, but we are continuing with the discussions. And we believe that away from the cameras, we can tell distinguished senators our concerns with the offer currently being made by the Alhaji Yahya Ali Ahmed Committee and seek your understanding, your support, your help to ensure that something is done more than what Alhaji Yahya Ali Ahmed has given to us. We know that his committee is limited in what they can offer, but if with your voice, government can listen, we can get this matter resolved and we will cross the line in no time. We have maintained that if the concern of the Senate is that this strike be suspended or be lifted, it can be done within 24 hours if you intervene. I mean, we can agree. We can't suspend within 24 hours because we need to follow our procedures. But the matter can be resolved between us and government within 24 hours, and we can set machinery in motion to speak to our members across the country, to call them and tell them what you have done so that we can move on. We don't want our children to stay at home. We don't want parents to lose sleep over this strike. We want to get it over with, but it does not depend on us alone. It also depends on what government can offer so that we can put this thing behind us and get back to work. Thank you for your time. The chairman has already said you don't have much time.